I always believed I knew her, not in a vague, romanticized sense, but truly knew her. I could tell when she was lying about eating the last slice of cake, or when she faked enthusiasm about my off-key singing. I knew the subtle shift in her posture when she was annoyed but didn't want to show it. I knew her silences, her sighs, her sleepy murmurs in the middle of the night. Or so I thought. It began with something so small, I almost missed it. I'd come home early one Wednesday, a rare thing, and found her sitting in the living room staring blankly at the television. Except it wasn't on. Her hands were still, clasped tightly in her lap, and her eyes didn't flicker when I walked in. She didn't hear the door creak or the jingle of my keys. When I called out, she jolted like I'd caught her doing something wrong. "You scared me," she said with a nervous laugh. "I didn't hear you come in." I remember walking over and kissing the top of her head, but I could feel it, tension under her skin. She said she was tired. Long day, headache. I didn't press. People have off days, but that night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, uneasy. Something had shifted. The next few days were filled with little things. She started locking her phone, which she'd never done before. I caught her deleting messages with haste when I walked in. She'd disappear into the bathroom with her phone, or step outside to take a call. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd smile too quickly and say, "Just work stuff." She worked in publishing. Work stuff was usually emails and deadlines, not whispering outside under the stars like she was afraid of being overheard. One night, curiosity got the better of me. While she showered, I picked up her phone. The lock screen demanded a code. 4 digits that separated me from truth or madness. I tried her birthday, mine, our anniversary, nothing. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, she caught the phone in my hand. Her expression froze. "What are you doing?" I stammered. I thought I heard it vibrate. She stared for a second too long, then snatched it gently. "It's nothing, just some emails." "Why's it locked now?" She dried her hair with deliberate slowness. "Work policy, new security thing." I nodded. Let it go, but my gut twisted tighter. The following week she left town for a conference. 3 days. I offered to drive her to the airport, but she insisted on taking a taxi. "No need to wake up early," she said, brushing my cheek with her fingers. "I'll be back before you know it." That night, I called the hotel she claimed she was staying at. No reservation under her name. I asked twice, described her. The clerk apologized. Nothing. I didn't sleep. The next day, I drove by her office. Her car wasn't there. I waited an hour. Nothing. That night, I sat in the dark living room, her absence thick in the silence. I wanted to believe I was being paranoid, that there was a logical explanation. But when she returned, she carried no luggage, no receipts, no conference materials. She looked tired, yes, but there was something else, an emotional exhaustion, like she'd carried a burden heavier than miles. I didn't ask, I simply hugged her tighter than I needed to. Then came the photograph. I was cleaning out the junk drawer when I found it, a small worn Polaroid tucked between receipts and expired coupons. It showed her, younger, maybe in her early 20s. She was standing beside a man I didn't recognize. His arm was around her waist, and they both had that look, intimate, natural, unposed, happy, very happy. On the back, someone had scribbled a date, 10 years ago, before we met. When I showed it to her, her face turned pale. Not just surprised, gutted. "Where did you find that?" "The drawer." She took it from me slowly. "I thought I lost this." "Who is he?" She looked at the photo for a long time. Her thumb brushed over the man's face. "No one, just someone I used to know." But her voice betrayed her. It cracked on the last word. I watched her retreat behind silence, the way people do when they're cornered. I started watching her more closely. She left the house at odd hours. She became skittish, distracted, overly affectionate at times, like she was trying to erase suspicion with tenderness. I played along, smiled, kissed her when she reached for me. But inside, I was unraveling. I installed a tracker on her car. I told myself it was for peace of mind, that I was protecting our marriage. The next time she said she had a late meeting, I checked the location. She wasn't at the office. She was parked in front of a small house in a quiet neighborhood. 30 minutes away. I drove there. I didn't get out. Just sat in my car, engine off, lights dimmed, heart pounding. 30 minutes passed. then an hour. Then she came out, laughing, with the man from the photo. He hugged her, touched her face, then kissed her. Not a casual kiss, something deeper. I couldn't breathe. She went back inside. I stayed there for hours, unable to move, stuck between disbelief and fury. When I finally returned home, I collapsed on the couch and stared at the ceiling until dawn. The confrontation didn't come immediately. I rehearsed it 100 times. I waited for the right moment, but it never felt right. I kept asking myself, what if I was wrong? What if there was something else, something innocent I didn't understand? A week later, she told me she was pregnant. Her eyes were filled with tears. She clutched my hands and whispered, "It's what we always wanted," and it was, or had been. I stared at her, torn between joy and dread. "When did you find out?" "Just this morning," but there was something in her expression. Fear maybe, or guilt. I couldn't tell. I smiled, played the role, but inside, a voice screamed, "Whose child was it?" I started digging. I hired someone, a private investigator. I gave him everything, the photo, the address, her schedule. He promised to be discreet. A week later, he called me. "She's been visiting him for months," he said. "Same guy, sometimes during the day, sometimes overnight. I followed her last Thursday. She stayed at his place." "Who is he?" There was a pause. "He's not just anyone. His name's on an old birth record, as the father." I felt the world tilt. A father. She had a child. Before you met. Gave it up. From what I can find. I dropped the phone. She never told me. I went through every moment of our life together. The late nights, the secrets, the missing years, she never talked about. I'd asked once, early in our relationship, about her past. She'd smiled and said, "Nothing worth remembering." Now I knew what she meant. That night, I sat across from her at dinner. She talked about baby names, about nursery colors. I watched her face, trying to see the woman I thought I knew, but everything was different now. She was a stranger wearing my wife's skin. Finally, I asked, "Did you ever have a child before?" She froze. The silence was loud. Her fork slipped from her hand. "I need you to be honest with me." She looked down. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, why didn't you tell me?" "I was scared you'd see me differently." I swallowed hard. "Is it his?" She didn't answer right away. Just stared at the tablecloth, like it held the answers she didn't want to say out loud. "It might be." The room spun. Everything we had built, every memory, every shared laugh, every quiet moment, it all cracked in that instant. "Why him?" I asked. She looked up, her eyes rimmed with tears. "Because I lost everything once, and when I found him again, it was like touching a ghost I never buried." I stood. I couldn't breathe in that room. Couldn't look at her. She followed me down the hall. "Please don't walk away." I turned to her. "I don't even know who you are anymore." "Yes you do," she whispered. "You just didn't know everything, but you lied." "I was trying to protect you. Us. I never meant to fall back into it. It just happened." I walked out, drove for hours, with no destination. The city lights blurred past me, each one, a reminder of a life that suddenly felt foreign. When I returned, she was sitting on the couch, clutching the photo. "I'm going to tell you everything," she said, and she did. About the boy she loved, when she was barely out of school, the pregnancy, the shame, her parents forcing adoption, the silence that followed, the pain that festered, how she buried it all, until one day, she saw his face again, in a coffee shop. "It wasn't supposed to go anywhere," she said. But the more we talked, the more the past pulled us in. I listened, heartbreaking, with each word. "You and I, this life we have, I never wanted to lose it." I asked her to leave. Not forever, just for a while. I needed space, air, time. She packed a bag in silence, kissed my forehead, before she walked out. I sat alone for days, haunted by echoes of laughter, of promises once made, now fragile and fraying. I didn't know what hurt more, her betrayal, or the fact that a part of me still loved her anyway. The phone rang a week later. It was the hospital. She'd collapsed, bleeding, complications. I raced there, waited for hours, outside the emergency room, hands shaking. When the doctor came out, his face was grim. "She's stable, but she lost the baby." I sank into the chair, the weight of grief crashing over me. She woke hours later, pale and weak. When she saw me, she wept. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For everything." I held her hand. No words, Just silence, and in that silence, something broke, and something else began to heal. I still don't know what the future holds. Trust is a fragile thing. Love, even more so. But I know now that secrets,